Hey, welcome back to Owl Dragon Adventures. I'm Scott Kegler.
And I'm Rob McPherson.
And this is our review of Endless Winters, Paleo-Americans. So this is Endless Winter, Paleo-Americans. It is a game designed by Stan Kordonskiy and published by Fantasia. In this game, you're going to be playing these early Americans as you are building up your own small tribe.
Yeah.
And you're going to be kind of spreading out in a somewhat of an area control game, but we'll get in the mechanics in a second. You are trying to have the strongest group, your strongest tribe here with the most amount of culture and overall victory points in the game. So it is a victory point chase. But that's the overall theme.
Yeah. So there are several different mechanics in this game, which is probably why we enjoy it as much as we do. The core mechanic on it, and really what drives everything, is going to be a worker placement game. You've got 3 different workers that you're going to be able to place. One of them is your chief that gives you a special little bonus ability when you play them according to their faction, their alignment there. And then depending on where you place, you get to go through and do the rest of the actions that are available. So part of the game is a deck building game. You've got your deck of cards that you're going to draw a hand from, and then you can go ahead and from the culture deck and from the tribes deck, you can go ahead and add more cards to the deck. That gives you more actions, and therefore you can chain things and do basically what you do in a standard deck building game. Fairly standard in terms of deck building. You've got several different choices. You've got the standard selections and you've got the varied selections.
Yeah, like special cards.
Exactly. So that's one side of it. Then you've got the area control side of it, which is this... I'm blanking on exactly what they call it. I apologize, but it's like the iceberg board. It's where you can set up your civilization. So you start with some tents on the board, and you get movement where you can move your tribe around. You can move your tents around, and as soon as you have enough tents in a certain area, so 3 of them surrounding a point, you can actually put down one of your settlements, and you claim more control. There's a couple of different reasons you want to do this. There are some immediate benefits with the expanded rules for the icebergs, and there's also during the Eclipse phase, which happens between each round, you get different bonuses depending on what you have the most control in. So there's the area control side of things. One thing which I just looked down, I realized I didn't set up the deck, but it doesn't matter, is there's the set collection side of things, which is the animals. So you can go hunting and you can actually collect animals and you set them up and they're a set collection as long as they're still alive at the end of the game.
Right, it's kind of like do you want to hunt the animals or do you want to farm them and have like a bunch of them?
Right,
like,
so it's the agriculture or are you the hunter-gatherer?
Yeah.
I guess agriculture is not the right word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can kill them and they give you immediate resources. So you balance between that. And then there's this fun puzzle with the monoliths, which you actually, you place these little square tokens that you've got onto the monolith board, and you get immediate benefits when you place, depending on where you place. And then it's a kind of area control-ish, a stacking puzzle.
It's like a stacking puzzle, yeah.
If you stack on top of a set of 4 of them,
almost like
you
a
get
tableau
victory
puzzle,
points. Yeah, that's a good point. Yep, it's a good.
And then there's also the.
And then last but not last but not least, there is the spiritual tracks here, which there's 2 different tracks you go up, and those modify how you score at the end of the game for the most part. There are some immediate rewards as you go up there, but for the most part, it's like on this side, on the left, it goes up how much your resources are worth at the end. So at first, it's every 4 resources you have is worth 1 victory point, but you can get that all the way up to a 1-to-1 ratio. And then on the right here, it's how many... depending on how far up you are is how you score your burial grounds, and you can bury certain cards and get extra points for another type of set collection there.
Right.
So there's definitely a lot going on in the game mechanically, but it all really does seem to blend together really nicely.
Yeah, from a gameplay side, what I really liked about it is because there's so many aspects happening in this game, it really does lend itself to a... You checking if your dog's being heard?
I'm checking if my dog is being heard.
I think we're good. All right. So
you might hear a dog.
So as I was saying, on the gameplay side, what I like about it is because there's so many different mechanics, they really represent the civilization piece of the game, which is you're playing kind of it's a competitive civilization growing game. So you might be wanting to have the most area control, and you're kind of being more aggressive in that way
Yep.
in the game, because that's one of the more I feel like
this is where you leaned into last game.
Last game,
Heavily,
yeah. So that can be a bit more aggressive. Or you can play, like, you want to focus on what your people have. So, like, you can have your culture and how big you grow your own tribe.
Yep.
So I felt like it really kind of helped feel like a lot of choices of what my tribe wants to be like.
Yeah, and we've played this a few times now, and I don't think in any of the games we've played, any of the players have played the same track.
No, it's fun to explore a little bit, like, because there's enough of the mechanics. None of them are overly complex on their own, but the combination of them does end up being kind of like oh, how do I want to balance this? Because it's definitely a game where I haven't seen so far leaning in hard into one strategy working out well. Oddly enough, our first game where we were a bit more exploring it, we actually scored better than we normally do.
Yeah,
and then
I'll reveal our shame when it comes to score too. So we feel like we do pretty well in the game, and then we look online.
Yeah, not so great so far. But like the last
so we're
game,
missing something. But
well, like the last game, I tried a new strategy, and it clearly was not as good because objectively, I had a lower score.
and yet it was still better than the rest of our attempts.
I think so.
I think you did win.
I
It wasn't
remember.
by much, but I think you eked out a victory.
I think like the problem is one of those games you can't fully ignore certain things, but it's like finding the balance, because like I did kind of ignore very heavily.
You and I both ignored that
the hunting in the game last time. So anyways, from a gameplay side, I think it's got a lot of options out there. So I do feel if you're somebody that likes these kind of mashup mechanic games, that this one does very well, specifically because I know it's mostly talked about right now as a worker placement game. I honestly feel like that is kind of on level ground with the other mechanics. I don't think that overwhelms anything else.
And it's funny because I think of it more as a deck building game personally, but that's just because that's what I aim for when I go into the game.
But like the conversation I see online with it is like it's a worker placement. I'm like,
Agreed.
I mean, yes, that does drive and kick off the rounds, but honestly, that's probably this isn't a dig, but like it's probably the least interesting part of the game is just the worker placement.
Right.
Because
it's a means to the end. It's like very much like the way Merchant's Cove plays with their worker placement.
And also like you never there's no tree to grow out more workers.
Right.
And essentially, like I know we talked about them having a special ability, the chief.
Yep.
But
like it's not much. Like it's when Chief when Chief Firewolf plays on the mountain track here, I get an extra tool. So it's like it's a little bump.
Yeah, and so I mean a lot of worker placement games will have that, like you have your regulars and you have like one special.
Yeah.
So that is not, I think, like the most impressive part of the game. No. But I think because it's just a combination of it. It's really like this whole meal of the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, I coming out of gameplay, I found it to be a high for me just because it is. I can kind of. I don't have to play this game the same way I'm going to play it every time. I think I can continue to explore.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. Pretty much for all the reasons you just said. I'm gonna give gameplay a high on this one.
No, very good. So that would bring us to accessibility.
Yeah, so accessibility. The rules are really good. I will put it out there. Like Scott and I played this just 2-player the first time we played it. As we play a lot of the more intimidating games that we bring to our table, just so we grasp it. And we were up and playing in about 30 minutes, which for a game like this is pretty
a lot of that
good.
setup just because there's a lot of like bits and pieces.
Yeah, I think it took me 20 minutes to set it up for this video.
I will say like it's definitely going to be a challenge for greener players that maybe don't play a lot of worker placement or don't play a lot of designer games. But if you do, I think it's going to be relatively familiar. It's just finding out like, what am I going to do as far as strategy? So the accessibility on the strategy
It's the plethora of choices. Yeah, you can get paralysis. Like I would never introduce my wife to this because she doesn't like it when there are 50 million choices on the board that you can choose from. But if you like a sprawling game and if you're good at like narrowing down choices and deciding on paths, then it's fairly accessible. But it's still a lot of game.
Right, but I mean, the plus side is usually your action just kind of like triggers one thing.
Right.
I don't find it to be as like procedural as I usually call like Trictarian, for example. Like where I like Trictarian, but like that can be like you have to do this so that you can do this so that you can do this.
Yeah, you don't have to, aside from getting the resources in order to do the next action, you don't have to spend 3 turns building up the right track to get to that 4th move.
Right, so from that end, it's easy to understand like what I can do in a turn, and I feel like I can understand it, and I feel accomplished when I do that. So I think that really speaks to the accessibility.
Yeah, so for a game this big, sprawling, I'll say, not big. I would give it a high accessibility personally. Overall, I'd say it's somewhere between a mid and a high because it's a lot of game, but for this type of game, it does it well.
Yeah, and the game in the rule book, as you pointed out, does that job well. I found that all of the iconography was easy to follow in the game. Like, food gets me this resource. I pick this card, I play it, I get 2 tools and a food.
And what's great is right on the back of the rule book, any of the slightly more obscure iconography for when you first start playing, it's all right there in a big table. So they did a good job with that.
And I think it's smart to only have 2 main resources in the game. Like, and they all can do different things and pay for. I mean, there's technically, I guess, 3 resources if you count work.
Yeah, labor.
But still pretty easy to understand. So again, I agree. I'm about mid to high in accessibility. So that brings us to design. From a design side, I really liked how everything was laid out. I thought the main player board up here with the worker placement aspect was easy to follow. I'm not sure because this is just Kickstarter, but this is a lot of what was available, right?
We're going to get yelled at again for this. We got yelled at it for in Trekking Through History for not having looked this up beforehand. I don't think there's any difference between the base game and the no, in fact, I know for a fact. No, this is what you get with the game.
So the only thing
only thing in the Kickstarter was they could give you a complete box that put everything into it, which I am supremely jealous of.
But the reason why I bring it up I love the area control setup. I love how the player board's set up, very easy. I love games where I remove this and I know what I get underneath it. It's well printed off like this. Like I know I'm going to draw an extra card during the next phase. What I bring that up is the card layout. You could have had like a mat or something like that, but then we're getting Oh, they did? Well, there you go. And then
they did.
Shame on you.
They didn't have it available in retail.
Oh, there you go. Fair enough.
Yeah, so I pick this all up retail.
So you could organize the space that way if you have the mat. I think that'll be helpful. But otherwise, everything on the design side I think is very good. The art is very fun. Is it the same?
In fact, they had 2 different types of mats.
Jeez.
They had the mat where it could be all of this all in one. Including this and everything. Okay. And then they have them split out, and they're all different neoprene mats.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Shameful.
I'm looking for them. So if you have any leads.
So, but I like the art style. It is very kind of dramatic, comic booky. Like I like it. It's very fun. It really is consistent. Has a good world feel to it. Everything involved, even the animals, feel like related to the same way that the tribe is drawn.
And the graphic design stands out really well from it. They do good. And it's thematically standing out. Like on the culture, it's actually on an animal skin here, so it's not just like this rectangle that they put the
and it's easy to identify like what types of cards are what. Like when you have your tribe cards versus your culture cards, like it's very easy to know what you're doing on your turn.
Yeah, even sorting the cards out at the end to get them back into the preset decks and then into the sections. Sometimes that can be really tedious because they put like a tiny little icon at the bottom, and this is just like nope.
Or the dots on the back of the card or the bottom of the card or something like that. So I think from a design side, I really enjoyed it. I think it's eye-catching on the table, too, with all the snow and the ice and the glaciers.
Yep. Which can be hard to do with ice.
Yeah, I mean, you're limited, blues and whites and grays. Yeah. But no, everything else, it really pops for me, so I enjoy it. I like that, functionally, they're not different at all, but I like that the 4 tribes also have a difference in their they have a different animal iconography for each animal or for each tribe as well, which that's why it's like a bear and a wolf, and that's involved with some of the.
I am curious. So I have all the expansions because I'm me. I haven't played them yet though, so I'm wondering if they're going to lean into that a little bit more in any of the expansions. Like there's the Ancestors expansion.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll have to check it out.
Yeah, so I guess we should have qualified. This is just base game. We haven't dug into the extras yet, so
right. So where do you land on design? I'm
I agree. Yeah, okay. High on design. Yeah.
Next would be quality. So from a quality standpoint, one of the things I really loved with it is the in the retail edition of the box, it is fantastic storage solutions.
Yep.
Which is particularly with this when you have these individual factions, they each go in their own box. They have their own
little box, and everyone just sets up their own stuff.
Everything goes back to its own place and isn't rattling around in the box. Yep. The cards are a good. I think it's a linen. Nice linen cards there as well. All the base components are really great. I love the little wooden pieces for the monolith game.
Yep,
feels substantial.
What's funny is there are upgrades available for these. their resin.
Oh, that's stupid.
And I actually prefer the wood.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they do actually have upgrades to the already fairly bespoke components.
Completely unnecessary. But like the custom printed.
But if Fantasia, you want to send us a set, we'll.
But I like the little the settlements are fun.
Yep.
Everything is really solid.
Yeah, no, I have absolutely no complaints. Like even all the cardboard pieces are. Yeah, they've got the linen texture to them, so they're even a little bit more durable. Yeah, they're custom cut meeples. You know, you get little tents here. Yeah, little tribesmen here.
No, they did a fantastic job with it. Oh, I didn't even realize that they're asymmetrical too.
I didn't either.
Different cuts of the.
I didn't either.
The factions, yeah.
I was about to jokingly say.
He's got a club.
Yeah. I was about to jokingly say. I mean, I guess they could have done them different for each tribe, but. You got me there.
Yeah. So no, it's. I mean, from a quality side, it's a very, very well produced game.
Yeah.
I can see there's a lot of attention to every detail, every component.
And I will say, especially as the industry keeps going, a lot of complaints that I hear is that, and I agree with, is that everything's going so much more plastic. We're creating a lot more waste with the waste plastic and everything. And yes, there are plastic components. We've got some miniatures. We've got the little settlements, and we've got the storage solution.
Right.
But like. That's why I like the wooden meeples and the wooden things here, and this is all cardboard. So like it's nice and bespoke without really being that wasteful.
Right.
It's at least a step in the right direction.
Absolutely. So that's high for quality.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And for the last thing is value. So
all said and done, this was retail. All said and done for the base game and all 3 expansions, it was $120.
And I think just the retail base game, which is $60, and that's candidly, FOMO is a real thing, right?
Yeah.
I think this is a game you could just buy the $60 game and
we played this a whole bunch. We have not cracked open.
And this is just the $60 right here on the table.
Yeah.
So you have a very robust game of multiple mechanics that plays well from 1 to 4.
1 to 4. Yep.
1 to 4. And it plays in what would we say, about an hour and a half, 2 hours?
I'd say an hour and a half, yeah.
We play. So I don't think it would take you a long time to get your value out of the game.
No, not at all.
You've played. I haven't played it solo.
Yeah, I played it solo a couple of times. The Automo works really, really nicely.
Mm-hmm.
It has managed to kill me both times that I've played it solo, so it's very efficient at that. But that earlier comment about us apparently not being good at scoring.
Yeah. But essentially I think this is one that's going to be easy to table. So I think you can get this, particularly if you're looking to getting into a worker placement game, but that is available online, is easy to get a hold of. I think this is one to definitely check out. I think the value is very high in the game with that $60 price point.
I've heard it related to a similar play style as like a Lost Ruins of Arnak.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with that. So if you're a fan of Arnak and you were hedging about this, then absolutely.
Yeah, I think this one just slightly edges it out from a wealth of mechanics. Like I think you have a lot going on.
I think you do get. Yeah, the only thing you don't have here is a research track, but the deck building replaces the research track because there's no deck building in Arnak. Yeah.
So that's also a $60 game. So
right.
I think that both you're getting a robust amount of components.
Oh yeah,
and you're going to get some solid gameplay out of it. So I think it's a high valued game.
Same.
At that price point. The expansions, I can't speak to all of them, but I mean...
Yeah, I can't speak to the expansions yet, but I mean, I will say, even if I had paid $120 for this, I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be happy yet, but I wouldn't be mad. So $60, I think, is a great deal for this.
Yeah, absolutely. So where does that bring you for a score on the game?
I think right now, for Endless Winter, I am sitting at an 8.5. It's a really solid entry into deck building and extra mechanics. I think it does the deck building really, really well, and it's kind of what helps drive the rest of the things. That's why I kind of focus on it personally. I don't know why. I never thought it was, but the theme really, really attracts me. I really enjoy the that Paleo American, the early tribal thematics. I don't think we see it a lot. So it was a nice change of pace for me. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So surprisingly, for me, I'm actually at a 9 out of 10 on this one.
All right.
I really liked it. So much that I've almost bought my own copy of it, even though Rob has a copy of it. I thought that this game really captures my favorite thing in a game is where I feel that the mechanics drive me towards a thematic experience, and feeling like you have so many options and you can really start to like role play your way through this game. Like, do I want to focus? Do we need to focus on hunting? Do we need to focus on grabbing territory? Do we want to focus on the tribe itself and getting culture?
I think that's probably why you do better at games as sprawling as this than I do, is because you do snap right into the roleplay ideology, and you don't get attracted by the shinies along the way. Yeah, you're like, no, my tribe is going to do this. And I'm like, ooh, what's that?
Yeah, so I mean, and maybe I've won one game of it, I think. But I just... So we always joke that you always like games better if you win them. Yeah. I know we tied our first game. Like
that's right. Yeah, we
did.
We
we tied.
Yep.
But I really love this game. I think it's a lot of fun. I'm not sure if I would play it solo yet. That's really been the only thing that stopped me. That and upsetting Rob. But I really love the game. I know I missed, I think, the late pledge on. I don't remember if it's the designer or just the artist that had that new game that just came out. One of the Valeria games in that series of Valeria, but
okay, all right.
I don't know. If you know more about it, please comment below. But yeah, I really love the game. I've really come to the last year, particularly playing games like this and playing so much, has helped me understand like how much I like these worker placement kind of highly thematic games. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helps, and if you enjoyed this content and this discussion around Endless Winters, Paleo-Americans, go ahead and make sure you like and subscribe. And with that, we wish you good luck with all of your future board game adventures.
And thank you for joining us on ours.